Welcome into the RotoWire DFS show. I'm Adam Zdroik. We have a Champions League final coming up Saturday, May 31st. We're fresh off the end of Premier League play, European League play. Chelsea beat Real Betis on Wednesday. We're fresh off all those things. And, we're fresh off the 10 game slate. It was Tuesday after Memorial Day. I was like, oh, I completely forgot the Champions League final is coming up. So, hey, let's get some content. Got a betting article, got a plus 6,500 parlay, same game parlay in this article. Check it out if you want to read my thoughts, but you're going to listen to my thoughts here on this game in a little bit. But we have a cheat sheet as always. Promo code YouTube 15, YouTube 15 to get 15% off any RotoWire subscription. And you're gonna, it's the end of the soccer season. We still have a lot of MLS. Sorry, it's the end of the European soccer season. We still have a lot of MLS stuff. We will have Liga MX whenever that returns in July. But we got some new things planned. We got an NFL app coming out in the next 1 or 2 months. And other than that, we're here. Where the summer is almost here, but I guess I got to give first shout out here, Ryan Belangi, who's on all these shows. If you're not in our Discord, or you're not on Twitter, or if you're not following King of the Pitch, Ryan Belangi, who's always on these videos, he won King of the Pitch first and second. So congrats to Ryan. He won, I think it was 150,000 and 75,000 in first and second of King of the Pitch. So shouts to him on the victory. I think that just means he's either going to buy like 20 new TVs, really expensive TVs, that is, or he's just going to buy the RotoWire soccer department and create. It's just going to be Ryan Belangi soccer. It's going to be no longer. He's going to buy it from RotoWire and he's going to make it RotoWire. He's going to make it Ryan Belangi soccer. I think that's what he said he was going to do with his winnings, but I'm not positive. But let's get to this game here. That's why everyone's listening. Let's get to the Champions League final. And, there's not a ton of things to say about specifically a game like this, but just in terms of showdown, there's not a ton of things. You pick how you think think the game's going to go and build your lineups from that. But now that we have bigger contests, now that DraftKings, Champions League contests are always kind of bigger, but it's kind of disappointing that we didn't have bigger contests for the 10-game Premier League slate to close the season. It's disappointing we have miniature MLS slates throughout. We're going to have miniature MLS slates throughout summer. We had a bunch on Wednesday, and it's just, $100 to first place. And that's kind of where we're at right now in terms of DFS soccer. I still think, if they increase the prize pool, then the people will actually come. But it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. But we still have a nice contest here for this final. And this is kind of the max for this Champions League final. This is kind of the max of what DraftKings is doing for soccer these days. So we have the 100K, 20K to first. The big one, 4,700 entries. For the smaller ones, the corner kick is 2.5K, which is basically bigger than almost any other corner kick I've seen this season. I'm not sure if we've gotten that high in other things. Yeah, so that's the $5 entry. We have some bigger single entries. So, but basically bigger stuff across the board. Let me see what the step over is at. 1.25K, not crazy. But that's kind of what we're looking at for the Saturday's final. And MLS got these miniature toe pokes going on. But yeah, so let's get into this. Again, check out that betting article. I talked a little bit about everything in there. So PSG, 43% chance to win. Inter coming in at about 28%. Only 30% clean sheet, which seems off. Seems off if I'm being honest. We had these teams. We had Newcastle and Arsenal over the weekend, and I think they were like 45% chance for a clean sheet. Neither one of them got a clean sheet, but comparing that percentage to just 30% for PSG seems pretty small here. The implied total, the over under, we're getting, implied total is 2.5, 2.68. I think the bet is, I think under 2.5 goals is plus 120, something like that. So we're kind of in this range where I do think that cheat sheet percentage is kind of low here. But either way, a big number that I found in doing some research, the last 6 Champions League finals, it's been win to nil. Win to nil. So one team has been held scoreless the past 6 finals. And if you look at this game, you can take it kind of one of two ways. Actually, I think kind of no matter what, we're going to be looking at. So we're probably going to be looking at PSG will have 15 plus shots. Let's just say, I think they can get up to 25 actually, but let's just say PSG will have more than 15 shots. Inter Milan will be in about 8 to 12 shot range. 8 to 14 shot range. They'll be a little less. They'll have less possession. Inter will probably have 30, 35. Again, obviously this depends on if there are goals in the first 20 minutes, then somewhat all bets are off to a certain extent. But we'll probably be looking at 65, 70% possession for PSG. I don't think any of these things are going to be crazy. These aren't surprising numbers. It's just how this game is going to be played. So if you're unfamiliar with these teams, or if you're unfamiliar with, I don't know, how this game, if you just want some thoughts on how this game is going to go, that's kind of what range we're looking at here. So yeah, with that in mind, I still think even if the one way, okay, let's say PSG score in the first 20 minutes and then you'll have them sitting back a little bit. And we saw that a little bit in those Arsenal games where PSG did sit back and just didn't really attack too much because they didn't really need those goals later in the matches. But even then, like Inter aren't really the same team as Arsenal. So I still think it's going to be hard for Inter to match the same kind of, opportunities that Arsenal got. Because this is a team that's going to sit back and they're going to, kill off the counter. That's what they do. You could say, okay, they're in this spot. They might be the best. You could say they're the best counterattacking team in the world, given that they're on this stage right now. And that's what they did against Barcelona. You can look at those Barcelona numbers. It was what, 30% possession each game. They're basically converting every good opportunity. Most of them are on the counter or on set pieces. And that's kind of what they did against Bayern Munich. The numbers aren't surprising. Opponents had more corners. Inter didn't really have many corners. And then conversely, that's kind of what I kind of compared a little bit Aston Villa to Inter in that betting article where, okay, Aston Villa kind of wants to do the same thing. While PSG did have more possession in certain parts of the Arsenal matchup, that one was thrown off a lot because they got that, I think it was a 4th-minute goal in the first leg. So we weren't really looking at like an even matchup that whole time. And then I think even that Liverpool game, they did dominate that first leg and still had more possession in the second leg. It's not like Liverpool's play the same way. I think it's more closer. You could look at the Aston Villa match a little bit more. And that first leg was 3-1, and then it was 3-2 to Aston Villa. But it was just Aston Villa going on the counter, getting Morgan Rogers, getting Ollie Watkins, getting these guys opportunities on the counter. I think they had 2 good chances in the first game, and then they obviously had more chances at Villa Park. It was a little different situation. PSG were up 2 goals, and I think they were up 3 goals. So it was like PSG. I don't think the desire. I think that game kind of got off the rails a little bit there in the second leg. But I think if you look at that first leg, I think that's kind of a good comparison. I think it was Aston Villa, 7 shots, 2 on target. They converted one of them. They had I think both of them were actually in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. They had a really good chance that they missed early in the first 20 minutes, and then they got their goal. But then PSG had 20 plus shots. They racked up more opportunities. It was okay. They had all these shots. Let me actually just pull up the numbers here, but they had, I think it was 28 shots and less than 2 XG. I think that's kind of what we're looking at with this game is more or less what I'm getting to. They had 29 shots, 10 on target, but they still only had 1.95 XG. PSG 9 corners. Aston Villa had 1.74 XG from 7 shots, 2 on target. I'm not this isn't like an 8A comparison. This isn't Aston Villa or Inter Milan, but I think the mentality, the way that both those teams play in this matchup against PSG is something I think you kind of want to look at a little bit, and that's kind of what we're looking at from Inter. So, and if we let's bring this over to DFS, and you could say you could build lineups that'll be like, okay, PSG score 2 goals in the first half, and basically all bets are off because Inter have to push, push, push. They're down 2 goals and they need to make stuff happen. So that's going to throw some of these numbers that I'm saying, a little off than what was projected. And you could build lineups like that. You could have, okay, play for Inter floor points and, throw in, get the goals. Let's say whoever, Dembele and Fabian Ruiz get a goal or something like that for PSG. And then they're actually not the ones getting floor points. It's actually Inter in the second half because they're down 2 goals. So that's kind of what we're doing in showdowns. You're building out how you think this game's going to go, and you're building out a roster on the basis of how the game goes. So yeah, so that's the basic general idea for playing showdown. So uh to get different is another question. Obviously, to get different is captaining someone from Inter because they're going to have less floor points. They're projected to lose. All those scenarios there where, okay, if you're already looking at Inter and you're already captaining Inter, you're already going to be a little different than the rest of the field. So let's get into some of the players here. We get into the most popular captain. So I'll give some cash thoughts here for those playing cash, but I think that you can look at both goalkeepers in cash. I don't think that's crazy by any means here because I think we're going to get. Well, actually, I guess maybe only. It's hard to say on Donnarumma if you actually want to play Donnarumma because how it's projected, you're basically gonna have Inter's gonna have 2 or 3 good opportunities as long as this game doesn't go off the rails. And is Donnarumma gonna save those? That'll be the question there. So we look at Dembele and Kvaratskhelia, most expensive players, and they are the most uh, best floor players. Scroll down here, floor per 90 in Champions League. We'll start here. Dembele, Douye is in here as well. Again, depending who starts, it could be Barcola. We'll see on that one. But whoever starts between Douye and Barcola, we could be looking at, honestly, one of those guys, maybe I would say 45 minutes, but you could be looking at a 60, 70-minute sub there. So I wouldn't consider them in cash games. But I think that, the general in cash, we'll be looking at pretty heavy captainship from Dembele and then Kvaratskhelia. And then from there, like, where's the rest of the money go? I think the big thing actually in cash games is that even though Çalhanoğlu has sets and his floor is okay, it's 10 per game here at Champions League. But again, this includes the 8 games in group stages. So this isn't really these numbers here are all of Champions League. They aren't just knockout stages. I think we want to look more at knockout stage numbers. And then you got DeMarco here. DeMarco he's a little cheaper. Where is he? He's 8,400. DeMarco is 8,400. So you could probably find some way to get him in there. But my thoughts on Çalhanoğlu here, just in tournaments and GPPs, I think the only way that you play Çalhanoğlu is I'm not playing him for the set pieces. Like I don't care for you play Çalhanoğlu because you think Inter are going to score. And you play Çalhanoğlu to get the assist, to get the goal. You don't play him for set pieces because in 80% of these matches, Çalhanoğlu is going to have like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 set pieces. And he's just too expensive for a minimal for there. So that's kind of my thoughts on Çalhanoğlu there. And then even DeMarco, just a guy who's, another player who has a great floor and is super attacking, and he's going to be on the side of Hakimi. So maybe they're going to attack that side a little more because Hakimi likes to bomb forward, but he's still someone he's been getting subbed, in the 60th minute before the 60th minute, and Augustos comes on for him. But he is a little cheaper, so I don't think he's the worst idea here at 5,600 because you're going to split sets. You'll get him bombing forward, the main outlet guy on counters. But again, you're basically playing him for okay, maybe he's going to get three great counter crosses in, and are they going to get to the head of someone? Are they going to connect for a chance created, a shot assisted, or aren't they? And you see his numbers against Barcelona. It's just like he wasn't really much of anything. He's winning tackles, so that adds to his floor, but he's also committing fouls and the crosses. You can look at okay the Bayern Munich game. I guess you can look at the 73 minutes there. That game was a little more up and down there at times in that second leg. That second leg was a little bit crazier than I think we're getting here. But again, maybe you play that route. So if you're on the basis of okay, let's say that PSG don't score a goal or two in the first 20, 30 minutes, but we do still think Sommer is going to get saves, and he's only 5K. I think it's a pretty decent range of Sommer to project. I think his over under is 4.5 in that 5 range. So let's just say PSG aren't going to score more than 2 goals. And if we're getting 4 saves, you're still in a good spot with plenty of upside. This is a guy who has, we've seen plenty of times in situations like this, just like 10 save upside. And his floor is honestly more reliable than a lot of other guys that are in this range. And you need to spend down if you're going to captain Dembele and play Kvaratskhelia. Going down the list, Lautaro Martinez, goal or bust guy, not dissimilar to Çalhanoğlu. The same with Marcus Thuram. We go down to the other players. Barcola, if he starts, he is a little cheaper. But again, what are you looking for? You're looking for a ton of, you're still looking for at least like a floor. You definitely want a floor above 5 points. You want like an 8 to 10 point floor, but if he's only going 70 minutes, that's another discussion point. Vitinha is actually more expensive than him, but Vitinha is a pretty hard click there for 7,600, especially in cash games. And then you get to Hakimi, and Hakimi's going to attack. He has the upside. Even in like his worst game, it was at Arsenal. PSG got the 4th minute goal, and they didn't really attack for the majority of that game. He had 5.5 points with a clean sheet. Obviously, he had 5 fouls committed, but that's probably the worst outcome that Hakimi's going to have. But now he's 6,600, not terrible. You can also look at Nuno Mensch here for 5,800. Not as good of a floor. We kind of saw that in the second leg against Arsenal, but in the right spots, his floor is pretty decent. Let's actually compare floors here for Hakimi and Nuno Mensch. I assume it's pretty different. Doesn't look like it actually. So yeah, per 90 in Champions League, Hakimi's at 10.65. Nuno Mensch is just below Çalhanoğlu here, 8.39 in terms of a floor. So those pretty decent floors there with clean sheet upside as well. So there's two more guys. And, if you throw that in with what I already suggested and Jan Sommer, you got 5K left to do kind of whatever you want to do. DeMarco's too expensive. Where is our guy? Dumfries is too expensive in this situation. Another guy who is more of a tournament player, not really getting much of a floor from Dumfries. Fabian Ruiz is 4,600. That's okay. João Neves, you hope for a bunch of tackles, and doesn't really have the same upside as the other PSG midfielders. He's 4,400. But our guy here, where's our guy? Bastoni is 4K. The numbers haven't been there. His floor has, prior to those Barcelona games, his floor, he has previously been a guy with a pretty good floor for a center back because he does get forward. But again, how often is he going to be forward? He's only going to be forward on set pieces pretty much in this game for the most part. And then the PSG center backs. Marquinhos is 3,600. Okay. Pacho, 3,200. Yeah. So, yeah, then you do whatever in this final cash spot. But that's kind of what you basically looking at, all the floor plays here per 90 isn't, it's not crazy. It's not that difficult. If you're like, okay, DeMarco is an early sub, Douye is an early sub, and the other top floor plays are Dembele, captain him, Kvaratskhelia, Hakimi. I gave my thoughts on Çalhanoğlu and Nuno Mendes right here. So those are your guys. And then if you want to play goalkeeper or not, that's for you to decide. But that's kind of a simple. I think that's going to be the base of a lot of lineups here. We're going to see a lot of Dembele captain. How are you going to be different with Dembele captain? That will be a question. I guess we can talk about it now in terms of tournaments. How are you going to be different with Dembele captain as the most expensive player, with the best odds to score, with set pieces? So I think if with the Dembele captain, if you play for the simple 1-0, 2-0, like how are you going to win? How are you going to win with Dembele? You probably need a goal and floor. That's for certain. You're going to need definitely a goal or assist. And you're going to want Donnarumma here. If you're playing for the clean sheet, yeah, Kimi, Nuno Mensch. Maybe instead of playing like a Kvaratskhelia or a Douye / Barcola, maybe you play a midfielder, and maybe if it's 2-0, you get a midfielder with a goal. You don't play on Sommer. You play. I still would play on Sommer in this double goalkeeper. You play whoever else that fits, really. You could play, 2-1, 1-1, goes to extra time. Play for both teams scoring. You fade both goalkeepers. You get a goal from Inter. So you have Dembele and Lautaro, or Dembele and Thuram, or maybe you play Dembele with Lautaro and Dumfries, because Dumfries has been really good the last few matches in terms of just like being up there in the attack and doing things for Inter on the counter, being like the late traveler there in terms of the counter and getting opportunities to score and assist for Inter. So if you think that they're going to score, get a couple guys, get the goal and assist, and so you got the Inter goal there, fading both goalkeepers. And so we'll say Dembele scores in this lineup. And maybe you want to fade Kvaratskhelia, get a little different. Play a midfielder in this situation. Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz scores a goal from top of the 18 like you just did. Fabian Ruiz is only 4,600, so it's not that difficult to be crazy here. And then, play one of the fullbacks. Hakimi is going to be popular here, but I think you could still get a little different. Even if you play these guys, Nuno Mensch, DeMarco, you don't want. You could still do 3 Inter guys, but at that point, you might want to captain an Inter player. So those are just some different ideas here of what you can do. And do you want to play someone off the bench? That's for you to decide. I think the players to look at off the bench would be Augusto, we know, is basically coming on for DeMarco. Let's look at DeMarco's last few games. Yeah, so at the end of the Serie A, 68, 60 minutes as well. So I think no matter what, Carlos Augusto is coming in here for DeMarco. So we know that's going to happen. And I think that's the one for Inter that we know is going to happen. And then we know it's going to be Douye or Barcola coming on. So I think those are the 2 guys that you want to look at. And maybe you get the goal or assist from either of those guys off the bench. So that you're already looking at sub 5% popularity for those guys because they are coming off the bench. So that's kind of what we got here. All right, let's finish here. I've gone a little too long, which is always the case here because I just keep talking. Let's just end here. I've talked a lot about PSG being the favorite, PSG winning. So I'm actually just going to do an Inter 1-0 lineup. Doing this on the spot here. Inter 1-0 win. They hold strong defensively, get a goal off the counter, and keep PSG out of the net. Can they do that? I don't know. Anything's possible. This is one game. We're playing one game here. under the lights. So Jan Sommer, he's going to get 7 saves. He's going to get a win. He's going to get a clean sheet. We're golden. He's going to be what, 5%? 5% in terms of in this big $25 contest with 4,700 entries. 5% is probably too high. He's going to be sub 5% captain. Okay, he'll probably be 30% rostered, maybe because people are reading in the saves. Maybe he's 40% rostered. Though that seems kind of high. But so let's captain Jan here, and so we got the upside / clean sheet combination here with Dumfries. So we're going to want Dumfries in this lineup. So let's say Dumfries assist. We can pick either Lautaro or Thuram in this spot. But let me look at Lautaro's minutes lately, actually. I like Lautaro to score a little more. He didn't play towards the end of the season because he wasn't 100%. I think he's fine. Yeah, he's trained for a week. Last week he trained the entire week. So he's basically 2 full weeks of training. He was rested in the final few games. He played 71 minutes against Barcelona. I think Lautaro is fine. So I think I'm not at Inter training here, but he does have better odds to score than Thuram, and he gets in better situations, I believe, than Thuram. Thuram had that early goal against Barcelona in the first leg, I believe. But let's just have Lautaro for the purpose of this lineup. And then no matter when Inter score, let's say Inter score. So we got Sommer for the winning clean sheet. We got Dumfries for the assist to Lautaro. Okay. We're going to want floor points. So we're going to want Dembele. Dembele and Kvaratskhelia are basically going to be ripping shots because they're playing down. And in the final 20 minutes, we're also going to have you can take your pick here of any floor points. Maybe Fabian Ruiz is blasting shots from 20 out. Maybe Neves gets involved. I don't think Nuno Mensch isn't going to fit in this one. He's 5,800, but that's the kind of idea there. And also, you're going to want to be mindful of remaining salary, because if you're in the range of less than $500 remaining salary, just know you're probably going to get duped in the big 4,700. If you're above 1,000 remaining salary, and if you're super different, there's a very minuscule chance that you won't be duped. But even then, you're splitting 20K with fewer people who played that lineup. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So this lineup, 1-0 Inter, Sommer, Lautaro, Dumfries. We're getting 10+ point floor from Dembele and Kvaratskhelia. Fabian Ruiz, let's say he gets a 10+ point floor as well. Or if you even wanted to go to like a Bastoni, maybe Bastoni's just racking up defensive stats. Maybe early in the game he gets a couple shots from set pieces or something like that. Maybe you throw him in and then get the 3-point bonus as well. Maybe you play DeMarco. Hope, fingers crossed he plays the 60 minutes to get the clean sheet. So there's a few different ways you can go with this. Instead of getting, 3 Inter and 3 PSG, maybe you just do 4 Inter. There's not going to be a lot of 4 Inter lineups. There's not going to be a lot of 5 Inter player lineups, because back what I was said from the start, 80% chance that we're going to have PSG getting 20 shots and 8 corners, and while Inter get 10 shots and 2 corners. That's at least how going into this matchup. If no goals are scored, those are what's going to be. Well, those are what the stats are going to be. I don't think there's any. You can't really fight me on that statement. But that's all I got here. Again, YouTube 15, YouTube 15. I thought I was done last week. And then I forgot about the final. But time for a break here. Everyone, good luck on this Champions League final slate. Hopefully, someone can take that 20K. You're going to have to beat Belangi for it. I think Ryan's had some struggles in Showdown this year. I'm just guessing. I think it's open. I think it's open to be taken. Belangi won't be there to take it, maybe. He might be on vacation right now as well, so maybe he won't be eligible to play. But we will have MLS going on throughout the summer, rotowire.com/chat. Get into our Discord. Any questions in there? That's all we got. RotoWire Soccer on Twitter, YouTube 15, and we got some new things coming out. As a company, we have some new things coming out this summer, so stay tuned. Won't be happening for about another month or so, but there will be some changes to RotoWire. So maybe, maybe we won't have another video till that happens, but keep your eyes peeled, and we'll see everyone in the Discord throughout the summer. And if you're European soccer only bro, I guess see you in August. But that's all I got. Good luck on this one, and enjoy your summer.